Hello everyone, welcome to the Microdesk webinar series. My name is Ravali Rivalapati and I'm the Marketing Manager for the California region. Welcome to today's webinar, Autodesk Design Suite 2012 SketchBook Designer. For those of you who aren't familiar with us, Microdesk is an Autodesk Gold, Oracle, and Google partner. We provide technology training and consulting solutions for the AEC industry. We have 12 offices located throughout the East and West Coast with our newest addition in beautiful Chicago. We have a staff of over 90 consulting and technical specialists. Over the next hour, we'll take a closer look at some of the new tools in the latest suite of building information modeling software from Autodesk. In this session, we'll explore the new tools and features of the latest SketchBook Designer found in the Autodesk Design Suite. SketchBook Designer enables designers and artists to use a hybrid paint and vector workflow for concept design, illustration, and graphic design. You'll also learn how SketchBook works directly within AutoCAD software. With an intuitive user base, new users can become productive within minutes. Presenting today's session is Microdesk Solution Specialist Angela Doyle. Angela provides technical support, consulting, training, and implementation services to our architectural and building engineering clients here at Microdesk. I'm going to go over just a few logistics before we begin in order to minimize any background distractions. You're all on mute for the duration of the session. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them in the question area of the webinar toolbar to the right of your screen. Angela will address as many questions as she can at the end of the presentation. If we run out of time, we'll provide you with our contact information so you can follow up with us. And now I'll turn it over to Angela. Hi, Angela. We can't hear you.
Okay, I wasn't talking.
Oh, there you are.
You can now. I was just staying quiet at the moment. Okay, hello. As Ravali said, my name is Angela Doyle. Hopefully you can all see my screen there and hear me just fine. Today we are going to take a look at SketchBook Designer and all it kind of has to offer and how people would go throughout using it in the design industry. So with that, we will kind of take a look at the reasons or the challenges that people might find a reason to actually use this type of software. If you're doing very quick sketches, would you like to get a point across, just kind of concept design for manufacturer purposes, infrastructure, whatever the case is, to be able to get a very quick focused image across of what exactly you are trying to produce. With this, we also have the ability to use it as an illustration software. It does have a hybrid paint and vector workflow. So SketchBook Designer does work between more of a design platform as opposed to just a sketching and kind of illustration tool. So it is very conceptual, design oriented, and you can actually get great images out of it with great graphic communication as well. The SketchBook Designer is actually a ground-up platform, so it is designed to not represent any of Autodesk's other products, which is something that I do believe, enjoy doing, so that it does give you kind of a fresh look at what Autodesk can provide. They have a very user-friendly interface that you can kind of rearrange and set up into your justification, however you would like that. It does use the vector hybrid vector raster lines as well, so you can use both a mouse and an actual pen base or stylus tablet if you have that. I am going to be working with a mouse. We do not have stylus tablets with us, so it'll be a little shaky, but we'll kind of go with it from there. So you can use either or. They do put a functionality in there that allows a mouse user to smooth out some of those mousy sketch lines that you may get. So once again, the hybrid raster vector environment, so we can have nice, easy freehand sketching, create great visualization tools, different kinds of images, illustrations, comic book style, or you can actually use the vector environment to produce something that can be used more easily in more of a CAD, not necessarily just CAD, but more of a CAD environment so you can actually easily edit it and not lose all of the gripping and snapping that CAD users are so very used to. We do have a lot of tools in here as well that we can actually use. We can change vector layers to these drawing paint more drawing style layers. We can have as many layers as we need to, something very similar to maybe like a Photoshop, something along those lines that we would be able to store and filter layers that way. And once the vector environment is brought into CAD, you can actually manipulate and control those layers as well. We can do different kinds of mirroring or radial concepts, which is great for maybe the automotive industry, or as you can see here, this is kind of a shoe design that we do have. You can do a variety of different types of fills that we will talk about, cleaning up lines. You can store any kind of fill pattern that you may develop. You would be able to make like a quick little tool for that so that you can use that in the future. And then again, it does work well with AutoCAD. So you can use SketchBook Designer as a way to quickly facilitate the point, whatever idea that you're trying to drive home, and then you can actually take that into more of a production mode. It does save and produce as a DWG, so you are very welcome to open that in AutoCAD as well. The system requirements that SketchBook Designer does take are very minimal. It doesn't take up a ton of room on either your PC or your Mac, so it can actually be used on both, which is great. And you do have the option now also to have AutoCAD for Mac, so again, the interoperability there would be not a problem at all. So if you are going to use the AutoCAD add-in, just be aware that you do have to have AutoCAD 2010 or higher able to be able to use that feature. There are several different options when you're working with the SketchBook family. So you do have the option to use it in a mobile environment. It does come available for the iPhone, iPad, any of those things. It is actually also available in the Android market. You can go ahead and kind of sketch on the go there. It's not a full release of the software. It's more of a compact mode. Just kind of quick drawings, little illustrations here and there, but they can be saved out as well. SketchBook Pro is primarily for the iPad. It is something that iPad users can go ahead and use. I do believe it's a more full, yet not quite full, version of the software, which would be the same for the Pro software for the Mac and the Windows, but there is one specifically for an iPad. We're primarily going to talk about SketchBook Designer, which again is the paint and vector relation or environment. We have the ability to again use it in CAD, so I just want to kind of make that point. We can use it in CAD, but again, you can use a mouse or freehand stylus, anything like that. Here are the differences in the 4 available SketchBook family members, so you can kind of see the differences, what you're going to get, what you're not going to get. Obviously, SketchBook Designer is the full version of this particular family of software, so you can get different kind of things with depending on what you do need. So do keep in mind that the mobile is also allowed available in the Apple market as well as the Android market. So what's kind of new in SketchBook Designer 2012 is the way that they are allowing productivity and customization when it comes to not only your illustrations and your future drawings, but the way that you can set up your screen. So you are able to move things around, turn off different tools if you don't need them, but you also have several preset shapes in here which come in really handy when you're working with certain types of illustrations. You can get an accurate circle without having to filter through and cycle through the different circling options. Nice rectangle, works very well. Your custom palette, you can also again store any kind of custom material that you've made, any custom shading, gradient, line style, whatever it is that you have created, you can actually go ahead and assign to your custom palette as well to use in the future. The vector enhancements that we have allows more snapping, so we do have the ability to snap, which is great, especially coming from the AutoCAD environment. We do get very used to being able to grab those endpoints and kind of move them around and snap them to each other, and we do have that ability now as well. We can go ahead and use the sticker environment, which will stick that line to the line that it's associated with and kind of move around and move the lines as needed. Different grips and handles, and you can add nodes and points to the item as well in order to be able to even further fluctuate the actual look and design. We can assign masks as well that will go ahead and allow you to set it up so that you can essentially paint in specified areas. So if you are working with a particular illustration and you are not all that worried about being completely accurate when it comes to your coloring, you don't really necessarily need a mask. But if you are working with something more potentially rectilinear, of course you can use other shapes. But if it's a little more rectilinear and you'd like to stay essentially within the lines, you could go ahead and use this masking tool, which would then allow you to essentially kind of keep everything on the outside clean and tidy and only color and draw on the inside. You can also preserve the transparencies with the mask as well, and you have the option to turn layers into alpha channels so you can hide items in the front or in the back kind of thing of the view. We have also had an expanded text tool here, so we do have the ability to, as you'll see, adjust fonts, size, spacing, position. You'll have a full list of fonts. Any of your fonts that you have on your computer, you can go ahead and use in here as well, and it makes for a little bit more of a challenging and design appealing illustration. We can also bring in directly images into our drawing space. We can actually drag and drop images in there, and it will create layers for them, or they can be imported as well and traced. When they are imported, they will again create their own layer so that you can turn them off, turn them on as well. This does come with the subscription packages, so you will get it as kind of the base. As far as any of the new design packages that are out there, it will be included in all of them. So it is something that is fairly new to Autodesk, but they've been out for a little while, so I highly recommend looking into the design packages to kind of see all what they do have to offer, but just so you know, SketchBook Designer will always be in there. We can do any kind of training information and so on and so forth. It's moving forward without me here. Let's see if we can back up a little bit. We can do any kind of training on this or any other class style that you may be looking for at Microdesk, so we can definitely help with a lot of these, but you can also go to Autodesk's learning website and actually get a lot of videos and good bits of information from them as well. So you can get more information from them at autodesk.com/learning. Now it doesn't want to go forward. Here we go. And again, any more information, you can go ahead and visit Autodesk's website, get a little bit more information about that. I do believe there is a trial on there that you can go ahead and try it out. Again, the general ones on your phones are free, so you could definitely get in and try those out. A lot of the same tools and settings are there as well. Okay, so we'll switch. If I can remember how to switch here. Directly to SketchBook Designer. So here is the initial layout of SketchBook Designer. This is what it will look like when you do start it up. So you do have a lot of kind of newer settings, newer tool palettes, if you will, up here that we can actually work with. They are movable. You can rearrange them and reorder them on your screen. You do have your coloring options and your utensil styles, so you can actually change the style of any of the drawing tools that you do have available to you. By default, on the right-hand side starts up your layer list. You will generally start with both a paint and a vector layer. I've deleted my vector layer at this point, but you can go through and add more if need be. So your layer list and your mask list will actually also remain over here. The way that the layers kind of work and are added and removed and kind of manipulated throughout this layer list is actually based on gestures. So as you start working with the software, if you have the ability to add a layer, if you click and hold over the top of any one of the layers that's already here, it'll pop up a little menu for you in which you can either hover over and find out what that particular tool or addition tool does, but you can also just kind of learn the way that that is set up, and when it comes time to remove a layer, you know that you can just throw it off to the upper right-hand side, then that will actually delete the layer. So you kind of learn the gesture and how the actual layering gestures are styled. So you can add new vector layers at any time. We can clear out layers, merge them completely, just like in a Photoshop type environment, duplicate a layer if need be, and then again delete. So we're going to keep our paint layer for what we're doing here. But also when working within the layers, to move the layers, it is this little paper that you just drag and it'll actually rearrange. If we had another one here, we'd be able to drag and rearrange, or I could keep deleting it. Here we go. Drag and rearrange our layers. There we go, and it'll reorder them as well. So you can keep my one layer here. You can rename them as need be. You can shut them off. You can lock them, kind of thing, just like any other software where you would have a layer incorporated. Down in the lower left, we actually have our pre-assigned tools and styles. So as you can see, we do have a few already assigned to us, just different kinds of paints and paint styles that we could actually use. On the Asset 2 tab, we do have the ability to pick pre-designed colors. So again, if you are working, maybe your illustration is going to be a series of illustrations and you're working for or with the same company and you would like to use their color scheme at all times, then you can actually assign that asset down here at the bottom and then reuse that over and over within your illustration. And then again, the Asset 3 is pen styles, so you have the ability to set them up so that, you know, when you're drawing and actually working within your environment, you don't constantly have to write down or remember what size was that pen that I was using, you know, yesterday. I would be able to actually just store it in here. So that does live in our lower corner. Okay. With that, we're going to do a little bit of raster drawing here. We will get to vector very soon, but we're going to do a little bit of raster drawing. And again, I do apologize. I am working with the mouse, so it will be a little shaky, but we're going to do a little bit of sketching to kind of start with. So as you're working in this particular drawing environment right here in the center, it's kind of a little white piece of paper you can see there. As we're working in this environment, we can actually choose from several different drawing tools. So we do have, you know, markers and airbrushes and paintbrushes and pens and so on. We also do have a hard erase that we can do if need be. So there is an eraser. Your undo is a fabulous tool, as anyone I'm sure is aware of. Control-Z, good old undo. So we can definitely use that multiple times as well. So when you are drawing, the size is flexible by clicking and dragging this little size indicator. And you can see it right there in the middle of my screen. It's going to show me a difference in size as I am actually dragging this a little. It's also giving me a preview just above it. I can actually change the point on my pencil, so you can see it was a really sharp, fine pencil, and I can actually go all the way down to a dull tip on my pencil. I'm going to stay with a nice, fine tipped pencil here. The intensity can also be adjusted. You can see my line getting a little more bold, a little lighter, whatever the case is here. I'm going to go ahead and make it a nice, bold line. And I'm just going to kind of throw in some shapes. Again, kind of sketching. I'm not really worried about essentially what I'm drawing here. I'm just kind of trying to lay out something, maybe just a nice easy box shape that I would like to work with, maybe now or in the future. But what I can then do with this shape is actually take this layer and duplicate it. So again, gesture oriented, just drag this off to the side and duplicate this layer. I can go ahead and just start a new layer, and now it is above my original layer, and now when I draw, I'm actually drawing on top of this one. So what I can actually do with my original layer, so my original drawing that I had here, you do have the ability to change the opacity of it as well. So I can actually lighten it up a little bit and kind of use it as a background in the way that I would like to sketch here. So I'm going to go ahead and just use it kind of as my background tool, and in this case I would like my pen to be a little bit heavier when I come to my next layer here. So a little heavier of a line so that I can actually see it. Maybe in this case I want to change it to maybe a different color, maybe a nice purple color, and I'd be able to then much more accurately, again on a mouse here, more accurately trace the exact shape that I am looking for here. Very creative with this box, but I can actually get a nice easy trace shape in there as well. I can then take that and use any of my other variety of tools and go ahead and start filling in those as well. So maybe I'm going to use a little bit of a blue here with an intensity as far as my airbrush goes. You do have the ability, which is kind of nice to do a one-sided airbrush, which is kind of neat. So we can go ahead and do that. And I can just start filling in just easily, just filling in maybe with a couple lines of my airbrush tool of that color. Maybe I'll switch to a different color really quickly. Maybe a different intensity so it's a little bit lighter, and just maybe a smaller size. So I can do just a little bit of green back and forth up here on the top. You can just kind of see that you are able to kind of sketch these things in. Again, with that hard erase, we are able to just clean it up. Not going to clean it up really well, again, just because I have a mouse, but you would be able to get in there a little bit better if potentially you had a, oop, there's our undo option there, but if we did have the ability to do maybe a stylus pen, it would be a little bit cleaner. But we can have the option of the difference in our tools that we do have available to us. We can also go ahead and make another layer and use, let's say maybe this time we want to use just our marker. We're going to use a nice broad marker, maybe a little bit bigger here. I'm going to go with it again, a different color, maybe like a lighter orange with a pretty high intensity on that. With this particular marker, you can also change the rotation, so it's more, it can end up being more almost like a calligraphy pen style, so I can go ahead and kind of change my rotation there. But what we do have, again, the availability for in this case, again, I'll just kind of trace it over a little bit. With our paint layers, we can actually change the way that they are overlaid. So you'll see that I can go through and change this particular item that I've just drawn, and it'll adjust based on its different overlay attribute. So I can go ahead and kind of modify that as I want to. Let's go with overlay there, so we get a different kind of shape. Okay, so very easy, just nice, kind of a, not really a Microsoft Paint style, but just a nice, easy way to go through and design and color. You do have the slew of selection tools that most people are generally accustomed to, again, in any kind of paint software. So we do have our selection tools here as well. So I'd be able to take this, being on the right layer, be able to take that and maybe, let's go to the actual right layer and delete portions if I need to. I can go through and just do a couple little bits of selection. You can actually zoom in on these as well. Zooming is actually down at the bottom, but it's also, if you hold the space bar, you'll be able to zoom in on those areas. Same thing for panning, but we'd be able to zoom in on this little area right here, and you can kind of see. Gets a little fuzzy, but again, it's a normal kind of raster image, so it's a little fuzzy when you get in too far, but it is a pretty good image to be able to work with when you are just trying to sketch and get your point across a little bit easier. Okay. That being said, we're going to go ahead and start with a vector layer this time. So vector over here. So we will get a nice vector layer in here, and as you'll notice, I'll just go ahead and start a paint layer so we can have the difference. With our paint layer, our tools are set for more of a sketching and drawing environment, and when we move to a vector, we actually start to get more ability when it comes to our line styles that we're working with. So if I am working with this pencil, I do have options here where I can do kind of node-oriented curves. You can do great straight lines with this nice, easy polyline. You know, ovals, circles, rectangles. It's fantastic to be able to get a much more accurate line style in here when you are working in this vector mode. Within vector, again, you also have the ability to do any kind of text and typing. So we can actually put any of this information in there. Before I hit the check mark, I can go ahead and change its color. So maybe I want it to be a little bit brighter, maybe a lighter blue. With this, I can also change the font size at any time. So again, the text can be used very well when you're working within here, and it does translate out in the DWG fashion. You can change the spacing and the condensation of the letters itself, whether or not the words actually need a little bit more space, so you want them really tight together, or even in some cases overlapping. Again, the other standard abilities when it comes to text. You also have the ability, once you get the text in place, to convert it to a more paint-styled line or layer. Excuse me. A paint-style layer, and then that way you'd be able to manipulate it a little bit easier and use it in more of a paint environment as opposed to the vector environment. So I can go ahead and hit my little check mark there, and my paint then, or my text then, is actually within this model as well. Okay, So I'm going to go ahead and take my little text out of here. When you are working within a vector, again, you'll notice that our tools did change. We do have those options, but again, we can bring in items to work with as well. Actually, before that, we can work with AutoCAD in our vector environment. I meant to show you this part. So we can work with AutoCAD in our vector environment. I'm going to go ahead and just start up a new template that has a title block all set up. I can actually assign a new SketchBook Designer canvas. SketchBook is not a tab that would originate in your AutoCAD until you install SketchBook Designer, and then it will actually appear here in AutoCAD, again, 2010 or greater for you. But I can make my canvas, and maybe I want my view space to actually just be, you know, my main drawing space that I have here. So I'll pull this guy up a little bit, maybe. Okay, so then I can actually say, with my canvas, I would say, oop, I made another one. Hang on. I do not use AutoCAD all that much, obviously. Let's try that one more time. Let's just start that again. Here we go, new canvas. So I bring my new canvas in, stretch it to where I want it to be kind of thing. And then I would actually hit this apply. And what that's going to do, then I have the ability to take it out to a sketchbook, more sketchbook friendly environment. And so it's going to take a second here, but what it's going to do is it's going to translate then that exact same size into my SketchBook Designer layout, and then I would be able to kind of go forward from there. So it does take just a second in order to be able to open that up, but here it comes. And so now, very faint line here, you can see this is the actual border of the layout, the canvas size on my AutoCAD sheet as well. Okay, and then again, when you're done, this is how you actually take it back to AutoCAD. It's going to go ahead and put that right back in your design. Once we are in this environment, we can actually, again, bring in images. So I'm going to go ahead and bring in a little car that I found on the internet. I'm going to go ahead and resize this guy. I did just look for, browse, and find this car. So not my car here, but I'm going to go ahead and use this image to kind of work with. So a car is a good example because there's always some good sun glares and everything on a car. But you will be able to see the effects that Sketchbook does have when either sketching over the top of something in this effect, or again, if you were to be using a freehand sketch kind of thing, you could definitely get this kind of sketched out for you. So I'm going to start with a pencil. Again, I just want the kind of sketchy pencil line on here. I would like my pencil size to potentially be a little bit bigger so we could see it, and I would like full intensity, so again, you guys can actually see that. I'm going to darken this color up just a little bit too, so it's a little more bold. Okay. So in this case, I'm going to start up a vector layer to work with here. And you'll notice as I start to draw in the lines, oh, I would like you a little larger here, buddy. So a little thicker so we can see this. As I start to draw in the lines of my car, again, I'm very shaky, but what SketchBook Designer offers is the ability with this cycle symbol to toggle through a more straight curve. So this is where the mouse users of the group will appreciate a little bit more, because though it is very shaky when you're originally drawing it in there, it does offer up a nice clean line if you just simply cycle through those options. So again, I can go ahead and see I got this guy way off. So I could either undo it, but I can actually take this selection tool and move the endpoints and kind of get that a little bit more where I wanted it to start with originally. So I can go through, and this is a little bit lighter of a line, so I'd be able to modify my intensity as well. I'm going to leave it the way that it is. We're going to go for a little bit more accuracy there. So you can kind of see I can cycle through. There's another window back here. Make it a little sharper, make it a little cleaner as far as my car actually goes. So I'm just doing essentially one line at a time here because I am working with a mouse. So I do want it to be a little cleaner when it comes to, oh, very off. When it comes to my sketchability here. Sketchbook cleaned that up really nice for me there. So it fits in there really nice. So I got a couple different windows drawn in for my car. You do also have the ability to take intersections away. So obviously you noted that I was just very freehand sketching on this. I wasn't worried about portions overhanging or anything like that. You do have the ability with this other tool to actually clean this up a little bit and remove any little lingering pieces that might be kind of overhanging, sticking out. Something that I really didn't want. I want that guy, but I don't want this little guy. So I could take these away And again, just make it a little bit cleaner as far as your vector image goes. So I can just go ahead and clean these little guys up. Then I have just a much more appealing portion to my car. Now, as this is going through here, it is making its own layer. So the car is on its own paint layer. So I would be able to shut that off if I want to go ahead and check on my work, see how I'm doing. I noticed I missed a little line right here, so maybe we'll throw that in so that, on my paint layer still, back to my vector, throw that paint layer in there so that it's a little sharper. Let's try that one more time. There's a nice little layer in here. There we go. We'll straighten him out and draw it up. Again, just to kind of clean that up and clean it up just a little bit so that we're getting a little bit more accuracy in what we actually wanted with our car here. So along with these lines, I kind of just drew them all in at the same weight and intensity, but we do have, again, the ability to change a lot of that information as well. So we can actually edit the pressure that we had put on the line, so it's a much more accurate hand sketch. We can go through and edit the size of the lines, which is actually what I'm going to go ahead and do. I'm going to make certain portions of them a little smaller. So I'm going to bring that down a little bit. And then I can go through, and I did notice that portions of this line actually did need to get a little bit smaller, maybe not that small. So let's take our intensity back down. A little bit smaller there to kind of clean that up. Same thing on this edge, just a little smaller. It's kind of hard to see there. Let's go with right here. So it's just going to take it to a little bit smaller of an edge. These were lighter lines, so I'm just going to bring them down all together. So it's actually just taking them down in size so that they are a little less intense, I suppose. We can do the same thing in the reverse direction. You can actually bring them up. I could fatten up these lines if I wanted to. Notice that line getting a little heavier right there in the middle and fatten that up as well. So again, you do have those abilities to go through. The other tools that we do have, obviously, are very familiar. The airbrush, that's pretty standard, so you can definitely go through and on your vector layer even, or you could make another paint layer. You can go through and maybe this car is going to be a really awesome crazy green color. We're going to go with colors that they would never make probably. You can actually just go through and, again, it's a very light intensity, but I could get a little bit of shadow on my car there. So I can do a little shadowing that I have on my car. But you, again, do have these presets up here as well. So in this case, I'm going to do a windshield, and I'm going to go ahead and just drag this out here and click right in that space. You do have the ability also to stretch the grips on these. So just stretch that. I can actually bring this down and apply it more accurately to the actual shape. So same thing here. I could swing it out a little bit, bring this one in, just get the correct shape a little bit more accurate. If you double click on these little ends, you can actually change the color as well. So I could make this maybe a little lighter of a blue. Same thing over here. Maybe a little lighter on the blue. And because I've already got this color series going, I can go ahead and get the same reaction out of my little side window here. So maybe I want his glare to be a little bit different. And in some cases, maybe I don't want to use this point glare. Let's bring that back. Okay. So we'll put this guy back in there one more time. Real quick. And then we'll use a point because we do have the more of a point option as well. We'll just leave him like that, and we'll use a point to get in here. You don't have to have this many for the point. You can actually get it a lot smaller. But as you'll see when I bring in these sides, it'll just be a nice little round guy. And we can get him to focus maybe in, we can get him to focus. We're going to get him to focus. Here we go. Maybe just focus in this back area. Stretch him forward a little bit. Same color idea. So this would be my nice white highlight, but I would be able to use maybe my blue to be able to get a similar blue point color in there as well. So we can go ahead and, that's not what I want. So we'd be able to go ahead and get this coloring in there as well. Same thing for the actual car. There are different images that you can actually use. So this one's actually just a tile. So hopefully nobody wants their car tiled like that. But the images are available. And again, you do have a lot of those when it comes to your different assets. So this is actually quite long, and you can scroll through it as well. So maybe in this instance, we're going to use this guy. We'll just stick him on here so you can kind of get more of a more of an idea of the pattern styles that, again, you can use. So be able to get these in here really easily, take your design from just kind of an easy sketch into more of an accurate kind of a representation. Oop, or I can get rid of it on accident. Come back, buddy. There we go. So we'll just bring him back real quick and reorient that as well. Your enter key is very important here. That's what I keep missing. I'm so used to the escapes, but your enter key is actually what sets that guy in place. So he's got a nice top bend to him as well, so that we can go ahead and utilize those tools as well. Okay, so again, we do have the ability to then take it back into CAD. So we can go ahead and save this. And we'll bring that right back into CAD. Again, having the same layer control. So here's my layers from SketchBook Designer. I could go ahead and shut off the actual image if I need to. And again, then you would be able to utilize CAD to take this even further. So you'd be able to keep going a little further with that as well. Okay. Back in SketchBook here with our car, we closed him when we brought him back in. So let's open a car again. So this is a little further along. So we'll take out some of the things that we're going to bring back into here. So this is a little more traced, a little more kind of overdone, but things that need to have symmetry and actual radials here, like the tire spokes, for instance. We can, again, build a vector layer that has symmetry assigned to it, and then we take this symmetry, and I'm just going to do it off to the side because it's completely scalable anyway, but we're going to take this symmetry, and potentially we want 6 of our objects, so I'm going to go ahead and say that I want 6 of these, and now when I take my pencil with my nice black line to draw inside here, you'll see right away that it's kind of following along. So my tire spoke pattern, as I start drawing individual line by line, will go ahead and start to kind of take shape. So again, it's kind of going up a little bit off my screen, but we'll see it again in a second. So again, it's just cleaning it up. I'm just making those a little more, a little smoother. And then one more guy right across the middle. So we can kind of get our sketch spoke in there. We can clean up those corners very easily. Get this guy nice and cleaned up. And then we do have our spoke essentially laid out, okay? So this is on its own little vector layer here. So we do have our spoke laid out. We can take this and bake it. And what this is going to do then is it's going to turn it into a single individual layer so that I can actually move it all around together. So I'd actually be able to move the whole thing by itself. But as you note, as I pull it away, it left the original because that original layer is still there. So that will remain. So if I do change my mind, I want 8, I could actually come back to the same vector and tell it I want the same symmetry, but maybe in this case I want 7 instead of 6. So again, it's a little too big, so I'd have to do some redesign, but maybe I want 5 instead, or 4 of the actual spokes. So I'd be able to come back and edit that later as well. So now this one's got a little bit more associated with it. I could bake that one, and then I could actually show 2 different options with this as well, because I not only have my 4 spoke, but I do have my 6 spoke as well. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and take my 4 spoke out of here. So I'm going to delete him, and we're going to stick with our 6 spoke here. So this guy, once you get him drawn, you can actually get him kind of in place and scale him down so that we can get at tires in the pseudo correct location. So we're going to get our tire kind of right in there. We do have skewing tools as well, where we can actually go ahead and pull these up, get this a little more accurate, skew this into here so that we can get exactly the shape that we are looking for here as well. So we'll bring this guy back down. We can add curvature if need be, maybe just a little to get this guy in there, a little curvature in there as well. And as soon as we hit enter on that, it'll go ahead and apply essentially that spoke. So again, when we turn off our car, we do have our tire spoke there that we can work with as well. So in that case, I would probably want a little bit more advanced tools there, I would want to get that a little more accurate, but maybe I'm just using this as a background. I'm going to do some good design from there. So again, you do have the option to always start again with your spoke, which actually did retain, which actually did retain itself up here. So we do have our original spoke that we could go ahead and adjust as well. So we could start over at any time. Once this is actually in here, to get my second spoke, same thing. I would actually just duplicate my vector layer, and then I would just take this guy over to the other tire and move on from there. So I'd be able to quickly, efficiently, easily get my design exactly to where I want it. Scale this whole guy down. Exactly to where I want him in a very short amount of time. So as you can kind of see. Okay. And with that, you have seen the greater abilities of SketchBook Designer. And you can go through and create your own illustrations or use it for a CAD purpose and kind of move forward in your design process with a new feature. So with that, I would give it back to Probably.
Thanks, Angela. I have a few questions here. This was a great presentation. Okay. I'm going to go through that. Well, somebody asked, will this webinar will be available later? And yes, it will. These are being recorded, and they're going to be up on our website most likely next week, a week and a half from the day that the webinar takes place. And you can find that on our website if you go to www.microdesk.com. You can go under the Resources tab, and then the pull down will have Multimedia Library, and you'll see all the webinars there. There's a tab that says Webinars. So all this will be recorded and posted up there, so do check back. The next question is, so we can make face and body textures with SketchBook. The question is, can you make face and body textures with SketchBook?
I do believe as far as a texture that you would apply to essentially to one of your drawings, I would guess that is the question being asked. And yes, you can make and import textures as well. You do have that texture mapping ability, so you can bring in any kind of random picture or texture. I obviously don't have any good examples here, but you can bring in any kind of image and again modify its opacity here or how it repeats if it needs to flip, so on and so forth. And then once you get those created, they would probably be best to save down in your asset area so that you don't have to go through that again.
Great. And the next question is, where is the tool that straightens mouse created lines? And where is she's using to clean up the end of those lines? Is the cleanup tool available or SketchBook 2011? Not sure if that question, I think it came out in different parts, so it's kind of broken up, but do you kind of get the gist of it, Angela, of what the question is?
I think so. I think the question was definitely in multiple parts, how that's cleaning up like that with my mouse. And it's just a cycle symbol that appears. I want to call it magic, but of course it's not. But it is just a cycle symbol that does appear. If it is not the shape that you're actually looking for when you're done, you can go through and add and modify points of it yourself. So whether the curve was exactly what I wanted or I need to come in and modify it at a later date, it just makes that mousy sketch just get a little bit smoother, and it's just this little cycle symbol that appears on the end. The other portion was the cleanup tool on how to get rid of those little extra edges, I believe. And that is actually just right next to it. It shows the little edges in red there. And if it has an edge that it can clean up, it will select them. So in this case, it actually didn't select them. I'm trying to figure out why here. But normally it would go ahead and pick an edge. Maybe it's got to be a little bit smaller. So it wants that big edge there. So it wants that piece to get rid of. You can always pull these back as well, and as you'll note, they do snap to that line then. So if I do need to modify it, I can actually just click on this guy and pull it back as well, if those are giving you some trouble. Sometimes they're a little finicky, so you'd be able to get it by doing that as well. Was there a third one in there?
Yeah, there was a hold on one.
Something about 2011?
Yeah. Oh. Somehow it just went away. Yeah, it was about the 2011. Can you go back?
I am not 100% sure whether that feature in full was available in 2011, but we can certainly find out and let whoever asked that know if they would give us some contact information.
Okay, I'll provide that at the end of the presentation as well.
Okay.
The next question is, does SketchBook work with Revit in the same way, going back and forth?
It currently does not, so it does have to go to the DWG environment. You can take, obviously, CAD files, DWG files into Revit, but then they are static CAD files in most cases. So natively, no, it does not go directly to Revit, but you can take CAD to CAD, then to Revit.
Okay. And the next question, how did you do the trimming of the crossing ends of your lines?
Okay, so that was essentially the same question. So hopefully maybe it'll work this time. Not going to work this time. So I don't know what I did differently. I don't think I did anything differently here. So I had my car kind of in here, my little pieces. And I just used this little trim guy here to take out these pieces. Today it does not meet there. There's one. It lit that one up, and I can take out those corners. So I have a feeling it has to do with how the line is actually crossing it. But again, you can pull it back if it is causing a little ruckus like that. You would be able to pull that back. But it is just this little crossing tool up here at the top.
Perfect. Thank you. And the next question is, could you use this as a PDF markup tool?
Yes, absolutely. You can bring that in. I believe when you bring in, you'd have to bring it as an image for the most part, but I mean, you could produce it back out to PDF, or you can bring in a curved DWG, but you can definitely bring in an image of any kind. So PDF would probably have to come to an image file in order to get in here, but you could definitely use it.
Okay. There's a two-part to that part. Can you bring in the scaled drawings?
From CAD kind of thing, I would assume.
Yeah,
I believe, yes, you can bring in scaled drawings because you do have the ability to definitely bring directly in a curved DWG. So you'd be able to bring in whatever it is that you have. But again, keep in mind, you can always, in AutoCAD, you can create that that canvas. And you can do that anywhere. You don't have to do it on a sheet. You don't have to do it with a title block. So you'd be able to get CAD in a nice, I guess, scaled environment that way.
Great. And one of our last questions here, what was the tool you used for the hexagonal symmetry?
Let's go back here. It's part of the layer itself, so part of the vector layer itself. So if I make a new vector layer, it's the symmetry part of the vector layer. So this actually would create a mirror if I were to use it just like this. So anything I draw over here with my pencil would appear over there, and I'd be able to draw those things in. But again, it's just this little solid dot, and I could actually take that to any number of pieces. It goes up to 16 because they get pretty small, and you can move the center around as well with that as well. And then again, anything that you draw in there, you just draw a little, oh, I'm still in this triangle mode here, but come on back.
Okay.
So if I take it up to 16, I'd be able to do that as well. And then there we go. So then if I draw a little rectangle in here, there it is all the way around. Okay.
Okay, so the next question is, can you bring your sketch into Autodesk for a more accurate model?
Yes, you can take it out of here directly into AutoCAD, yes. You have to start in AutoCAD, so you have to set up your canvas and bring that out to SketchBook Designer in order to be able to bring it back in. So you just have to have kind of a canvas already started because it's a little tool that will actually appear in the upper area of your top toolbar when you do that. So you need to set up your canvas in AutoCAD so that you do have the appropriate size and shape and where you want it kind of thing, and then yes, you'll be able to bring it right back in there.
Okay, great. There was an individual that asked a question earlier, and it was about that three-part question. He said, I asked a question about straightening jagged edges that were drawn by a mouse, and was that a feature included in previous versions? He had he said 2011, and he sees that he has a 2010. He wants to know, is it available in that version?
We would have to check on that. I don't think that we had access to this until this release that I am aware of, so I would definitely have to check, but we can get you that answer for sure.
Okay. And he provided us with your contact information for that individual, so I will take that down and we will get your questions answered as well. The next question is, how do you get the SketchBook Designer tab in AutoCAD?
You have to have both AutoCAD and SketchBook Designer installed on your machine.
Okay. And the next question is, can you do linear arrays as well as in the circles?
No, I don't believe you can. I think it's just a mirror, and I may have to double check on that. But I think you can actually just do a mirror or around this particular circle, as far as I'm aware. So I do not believe that is the case.
Okay. And the next question is, can you bring your sketch into Autodesk for a more accurate model?
Yes, I believe that we actually had that one once already. You just need to start the canvas in AutoCAD, because the way that AutoCAD is set up, when you get the canvas size, it'll actually take it out. Well, here, let's just start one more real quick because it's quick. You have to make a new canvas in order to get a particular size, and then you take this canvas out to SketchBook Designer, and when that opens, it will actually enable another little tool on your toolbar up here, which, give it one more second, and it will. One more tool up here. I have like 20 of them open now, so there we go. So now we have this extra little tool up here, so if it did come from AutoCAD, we can actually, as you can see, return it to AutoCAD. Because it's making a DWG regardless, even if I didn't start with AutoCAD, I would be able to open it in AutoCAD without a problem, because as soon as I save any of these, it makes it DWG. So you can kind of see the, let's have one where we've been drawing. So the save or save as, and one of these cases we'll get a save as. All right, let's have some lines. So if we do a save as here, it does make DWGs. So you can see that even if I didn't start in CAD, though it would be easiest for you if I didn't start in CAD, then I could still make a DWG and open that without a problem directly in AutoCAD. Yes. Or take this to Revit even from here.
Okay, great. And the next question is, how do you set up the canvas in AutoCAD?
It's actually quite easy if my AutoCAD decides to cooperate. It's not responding at the moment, so maybe it'll come back while we talk here. But when both programs are installed on the machine, there will be a SketchBook Designer tab at the top, and there will be, on that SketchBook Designer tab, there will be on the far left-hand side a new canvas button, and it essentially just makes a box, and you size the box almost like a viewport, size the box as you would need, and then you can change a few more settings, but most of the time it's okay to just hit the apply button on the right-hand side, and then it'll make that box in AutoCAD, and then there will be another button that says, not sure of the exact wording, but it's something like take it to SketchBook Designer or something like that. So it's right in the middle, and it'll actually take you out, open SketchBook Designer for you, and open that canvas that you just made in AutoCAD directly in SketchBook Designer for you. It opens it for you.
Perfect. Great. We'll take one last question. Can you bring it into AutoCAD R14?
I believe you would have to also have a later version, because I'm willing to bet that this saves in a 2010 format, and so you would have to open it in 2010 and save it down. So you won't natively be able to bring it directly into R14. You would have to open it in a later version and then save it down.
Okay. All right, we are running out of time here, so the ones that we didn't get to answer, we will definitely contact you and get your questions answered. If you have any other questions you think of from the webinar today, please email us at webinars@microdesk.com. That's webinars with an S at microdesk.com. Then I'll show you a link of all the other stuff here. Give me 1 second. Great presentation, by the way, Angela.
Thank you.
Let's see. We had a very engaging audience, so this is always good.
Definitely.
Okay. Everyone can see my screen here. I want to thank you, Angela, again, and thank you, everyone, for attending today's webinar. We hope you found this helpful and educational. We have free webinars every Friday. The website is on your screen. You can sign up. We have 2 every day, actually. It's every Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern Pacific time, as well as 12 Pacific. We also have training. You can browse through our course catalog for the upcoming training, and there's also custom training. And for the news, you can sign up for our mailing list. It's marketing@microdesk.com. And if you'd like to reach us, you can contact us at the number below. And I want to thank everyone again for attending today's webinar. We hope to see you on the next one. Thanks again.